millions of damage with Summoner Necromancer, and the only thing you need is Bone Prison. Yes, Bone Prison. Don't believe me? Let me explain what changed about the build, how we completely reworked the Paragon board to fit the new findings, and attempt to clear a tier 70 nightmare dungeon for the first time ever. Could maybe go for an 80 now. First and foremost, why Bone Prison? Simple. There is something that's happening when you use Bone Prison together with Aspect of Blight. It essentially spawns a pool of Blight in the Bone Prison, but as soon as you use this together, you will higher your lucky hit chance to 100%. It will essentially straight up proc the Ring of Mendeln. If I put my Bone Prison on any elite, on any minion, all 11 of my minions will suddenly proc the Ring of Mendeln, which can go up to 2.2 million damage at this point. And since you get the banger cooldown reduction, yes, your lucky strike of your Decrepify triggers even more, and your huge flash makes even more corpses, you straight up get it back again to use and use. And the best part is, the minions can't move anymore. This might be the most satisfying skill ever. The gameplay loop completely changed. Here, a group of elites. So you're going to start with your Bone Prison nowadays to engage a fight. What you're going to do is you're going to put Bone Prison up, get an instant corpse, make everyone get pulled into the Bone Prison, and suddenly you notice, oh, Ring of Mendeln procced. Straight away. Not even a question. It just straight away procced. Here, we're going to take all our minions to get there. Put the Bone Prison up, and you notice instant Ring of Mendeln. These 200k's everything, that's straight up Ring of Mendeln. Why is it not a million? For a million, you want to have the 10 stacks on Shadow Blight and also the 5 corpses consumed, and then it's straight up going for a million. Obviously, for these tiny mobs here, you're not going to get your stacks up because they just die straight away. I mean, Bone Prison, again, and all your minions straight up do Mendeln. And it just goes on and on and on. Like, if I go into a high nightmare dungeon, I engage with this, get a corpse, pull everyone in, curse them, and instantly get my reset so I can do it again on the next pack of mobs. And that goes on and on. And you know what? If you're fighting an elite, you're just literally keeping the elite locked down and he can't walk out of it anymore. Beautiful. The Paragon board completely changed, but we'll come to that later. First, the skills. I'm gonna start with Bone Spinners again, but we have the first change already, and that is Blight. But Blight is being used together with Supernatural Blight because it increases mine and my minions damage by 15 times. Instead of immobilizing, because we're having Bone Prison, we instead just multiplicative increase our damage. Then we still have the points in Corpse Explosion. And here's an interesting thought for you. It might be worth it to put all the points out of Corpse Explosion, despite using this as damage as well, to put it on Blight, because you have Blight in the Bone Prison. That being said, it doesn't hurt to have many points in Corpse Explosion and then Blighted Corpse Explosion. Also, we're still using Ghastly Blood Mist to make corpses. Technically, due to the Bone Prison, we don't need a Blood Mist that much, but it's still a good get out of jail card, and it feels quite nice to be able to actually, in case you're stunned or in case there's an overload of effects, be able to get away. So don't underestimate how good Blood Mist still is. And we're using Ghastly Bone Prison to actually make everyone in the Bone Prison vulnerable. And as you've seen, we actually have no essence spender anymore, no core skills. That is intentional because you don't need it. Already cleared a tier 63 dungeon faster than ever without a single core skill. Fueled by Death for the maximum damage, only 1 point in essence because, yeah, you don't actually need the essence. We have 6 points in amplified damage at this point. That's 18% bonus damage to cursed enemies and the standard Decrepify combo. Which brings us down here, and we swapped our corpse tendrils over to blighted corpse tendrils so they make blood orbs. And funny story again, because of the Bone Prison, it seems that this 35% is for some reason 100%, and you create so many blood orbs, which means a constant passive healing. It's crazy. You don't need to use your potions anymore. You can just blood mist through them to heal completely up. You don't need the vulnerable because your Bone Prison continuously makes vulnerable. And on top of that, we had in the Book of Dead swap over to skeletal cold mages so that they actually now make things vulnerable, because we don't need the essence gain from the cold mages anymore. You're asking, why don't I go for shadow mages? Well, because shadow mages still don't seem to apply Shadow Blight, therefore they're useless, and bone mages kill themselves. So that's kind of annoying. Now let me break down the rest of the abilities and then actually talk about the Ring of Mendeln, because I tried around with it recently and a lot of things don't actually work with the Ring of Mendeln, but others do. We get 3 points in Necrotic Carapace to actually get fortified faster. It's quite useful with this build. And then we max out, obviously, our Shadow side for more shadow damage and for even more shadow damage multiplicative. And the multiplicative here is very important. Now we change something down here and it will be a little bit crazy. We don't have a single point in bonded essence because you don't need it. If your skeletons get healed by 10% or by 60% or by 20, it doesn't matter. My skeletons don't die anymore. I did 65 nightmares together with 2 other players, so that's a triple stack. Everything hits so hard and not a single minion died to anything. The survivability is S tier. Now we do have the inspiring leader because the attack speed is nice, and we also do have the can't take more than 30% of damage at one time. We don't use Hellbent Command anymore. I know I talked about Hellbent Commander being good, but I tested more and more with the Ring of Mendeln, and the Hellbent Commander has 0 effect on the Ring of Mendeln itself. It should, because the minions are doing the damage with the Ring of Mendeln, possibly 16,000, but they don't do the damage. The damage is still from you, even though they do. And the damage that the Ring of Mendeln does gets multiplied by everything you do, and not what your minions do. Which brings me then, last but not least, to Shadow Blight. And with all the recent alterations, we made it up to 2.6k for Shadow Blight, which is interesting because we can boost this by 200%, by another 200%, and by all the other percentages, giving our Shadow Blight a chance to tick for just 100,000 per tick randomly on our opponent, constantly on our opponents. Beautiful. Finally, we can get suppressors killed. Topic suppressors. If you feel like you can't handle them as a minion necromancer with the Ring of Mendeln, it is because the Ring of Mendeln doesn't work against suppressor minions for some reason. Now, since we figured out that the Ring of Mendeln 100% procs when you're using Bone Prison, we're also focusing everything on enhancing that Ring of Mendeln. And that means maximum crit chance, maximum crit rate, maximum shadow damage for you, and maximum multipliers, while still maintaining minion life and own life plus damage reduction. Sounds a little bit much, but let me show you the items for that. First, if you're looking at my skill bar, we have Decrepify, Corpse Explosion, Corpse Tendrils, Ray Skeletons, Blood Mist, and also Bone Prison. These are the skills we're using, nothing more, nothing less. And for these skills, you need to run the S-Bank. Bone Prison spawns a pool of blind that deals 100% bonus damage over 6 seconds. That makes the Mendeln instant trigger and all your lucky hit chances percentages go crazy. It might be a bug, it might be a feature, it might be working as intended because Bone Prison doesn't have a lucky hit chance. I don't know, I'll take it. Very important here, max minion life, cooldown reduction, critical strike chance, and all stats. Technically, the cooldown reduction is not necessary and could be replaced through lucky hit chance. That would be perfect. That being said, technically you don't need lucky hit chance anymore, but if the Bone Prison is not up, obviously Mendeln can also trigger the complete time without Bone Prison. Now, you need to boost your Corpse Tendrils by another 60% multiplicative on critical strike damage and plus 20% critical strike chance, because right now we are actually at 20% critical strike chance and 274% strike damage. So that's over 300%, but the thing is our Golem actually works multiplicative on that. The Golem is sacrificed for 30x critical strike damage, and if I put this off right now, I was at 270, correct? I'm going down to 188. So that is a huge multiplicative bonus. And if you now get the multiplier from Corpse Tendrils on top, that, you know, that goes crazy, allowing us to do 2.2 million and more Mendeln hits when everything is charged up. Now on our other ring, we still have the Shadow Blight key passive goes up to 200%. And again here, it's maximum life for me, maximum minion life, vulnerable damage, and critical strike damage. Perfect. And for the amulet, we took a different one currently, and we also moved an aspect over, and that's the Shadow Blight key passive for 180%. You could also put the Corpse Tendrils on. This hires all of my damage by 180%. That's nice. The Corpse Tendrils would be 30% crit chance and 90% critical strike damage. Also good. We also have the Amplify Damage +3, which gives us a passive 9% on every single damage point multiplicative bonus, which is nice. And then we have double damage reduction. Awesome. For the boots, we put the Skeleton Mages on there, and I tried to make sure that I get dodge chance from distant enemies so I can avoid some damage. It's good. Then on my pants, you have maximum minion life, 10% total armor, and that helped me to get to the soft armor cap because the soft armor cap is around 10,000. I'm now at 6.8k armor, and with my you gain 40% bonus stacking armor, I get kind of around 10,000, and that is 100% damage reduction. Doesn't get like more at this point. And then damage reduction and damage reduction to make sure to not get hurt. Plus, obviously, your minions get damage reduction as well. And we're taking the hell from below. Unquestionable multiplicative damage on your corpse explosion. Amazing. And on my chest, as you can see, maximum life, darkness skill damage. That could go away for maximum minion life if I had it. And then again, damage reduction, damage reduction. And here's now my armor aspect that doesn't need to be on the amulet. I'm soft capping on the armor cap anyways. And I finally found a new helmet that has maximum life. I would like to have a higher roll, int, all stats, and total armor. Works plenty well together, and skeleton warriors on this one, as well as the mages on the boots. Now, before we go down on the Paragon board, shall we attempt that tier 70 dungeon for the first time ever? I don't have a 70, but I got a 69. How about that? Problem is, it's Crusaders Cathedral, and there's one suppressor minion that might ruin it all. I do personally love Crusaders Cathedral, but that one suppressor minion might be annoying. That being said, just get these dudes locked up, make all my minions so we finally get them going on. Curse them. My minions engage. Bone Prison around. Instant Mendeln proc. Even more Mendeln proc. Just keep the Mendeln procs. I'm gonna drink a potion that gives me more armor. I like that one. Fine Skin. Just kind of boosts your damage reduction a bit more. Bone Prison gets the aggro, so the minions don't actually attack you. You know, they straight up get locked up together. And you avoid any kind of attention and or damage. See, like there. Boom. Bone Prison. Is a very satisfying skill, as I said. Oh, there's an elite happening. Good. Let's keep everything locked up here. You know how annoying lightning pillars are. Bone Prison again. Instant Mendeln proc. And the best part is they don't necessarily attack the one in the Bone Prison. They just attack everything. Pull everything together. Bone Prison. Mendeln proc. Everything dies. Perfect. You saw the 1.5, 1.4, 1.8 million. Drop the Bone Prison. Oh. Pull everything together. You don't technically need it for every mob. But on the other hand, why wouldn't you just use it for every mob? You know? I mean, technically, you don't need to use Bone Prison for trash. You'll get it killed regardless. Then again, it makes everything faster. When it just supercharges your damage, why would you be sitting there and not supercharging your damage? Ignore that. Bone Prison. Don't forget to curse them. We want the cooldown of the Bone Prison to be instantly available again, just so whatever comes up gets locked in. Oh, yeah, I get that. Nightmare Portal. Well, that was a 2.7. I think I've never seen a 2.7 before. Million. Gotta look that up in the VOD. Do you notice how we're actually faster now, too? And yes, I don't really use much of the minion buffs, in case you wonder. Mainly because that doesn't actually make Mendeln higher as well. And my minions, they just survive. They don't die. Okay, Bone Prison. Do not get any initial aggro here. Get that corpse, the Hoot Flash. Next Bone Prison. And we're through. Bone Prison again. Doesn't feel like a 69, right? When we gotta go all the way up to level 100, and I know a tier 100 Japanese Necromancer who actually found this out. So shout out to the East, Beast from the East, because they figured this out, and I gave it a try, and it does work as good as they said it would. I thought it was a joke, you know, with the Bone Prison, because I was wondering why would you play Bone Prison? Such a useless skill. Not only does it allow you to stay alive, but the instant Mendeln procs are just mental. You're all weak, by the way. Yeah, sorry. German, you know? Humor is not our forte. Open this, Bone Prison, pull everything in. And yes, you can Bone Prison first and then pull everything into the Bone Prison. You don't have to pull everything in and then Bone Prison, because in that time, they might actually walk close to you and hurt you. And that's the last thing we want to be. We don't want to be hurt. Bone Prison. And despite the Bone Prison only saying it has 2,000 HP, which seems kind of low, right? It does. Oh wow, that was everything. It does seem to have way more, because it just doesn't break. I mean, I put it around bosses, I put it around monsters, and they just stand there and don't move. That's why I don't put like more points into Bone Prison, because even that 1 point seems to be more than enough. Oh, we picked a artillery shrine. Oh, and you know what? It'd be great if I could now find quickly the the guy for the suppressor, so I could just beat him. First, so my minions go in. Get the Bone Prison. Oh, I actually don't need the Bone Prison. I forgot. Artillery. Oh, shit. I dashed forward. Yep. Take it serious, pony. Take it serious. This is not a cakewalk in the park cake. It's a tier 69 dungeon. You know what they say about tier 69 dungeons? Does you from behind, does you from the front. Ooh. There's him. And he's not him, because I'm him. Yeah, memes. I'm sorry. And gone. You notice how we just supercharged the whole damage of this build? Because a lot of people were commenting on this build being rather slow. Well, with this addition right now, we kind of took the slowness out and we turned this into a more speedy demon. And we also made our survival be more secure. That's the part I like the most, because with a Bone Prison, like you not only have everything locked up, you also just choke him in your pool of shadows and don't let him go out anymore. That might be my funniest part about this, because again, we're still corpse explosioning, we're still having pools of shadow, we're still having our shadow blight stack up like crazy, right? And now they're just stuck in there and they can't actually get out because they're all together pulled in that hole. Oh, that is an event. We don't want to do the event right now. No, we want to find that suppressor minion and see how hard we do. Again, suppressor minions disable Ring of Mendeln procs. It's not because your minions are standing out of it, because you can get your skeleton warriors inside the Ring of Mendeln, inside the suppressor, but the Ring of Mendeln doesn't just proc anymore. It's the weirdest thing I have encountered so far, and I didn't want to believe Chad. They told me it is that way. No more Ring of Mendeln, and that explains why this build particular struggled so hard. And now I know you want minions to do their own damage without the Ring of Mendeln. It won't work. I don't think it's intended. I don't think we'll ever get that. And I hate to say this, but minions are, I think in Diablo 4, meant to be support, and that won't change. You know? Oh, he's panicking. He's panicking. He got locked up. He got locked up in prison, guys. Beaten on by skeletons left and right. And he started panicking. The good thing, though, is with a Bone Prison on a suppressor opponent, you can actually make sure that the suppressor opponent is on the one side of the suppressor and you're on the other side of the suppressor, which essentially allows you to still stay safer than ever before. Because usually you walk into that. Oh, that is something. Let's see how we're doing against this. Oh, I'm standing in the poison. And like they're locked in, right? They're locked in by the Bone Prison. They're locked in by my corpse tendrils. So they can essentially not move out in no way, because we got them firmly, fully under control. Is there... Oh, he's coming, Chan. Now the final test of everything we ever don't want. I'm going to try to trigger my Bone Prison before and hope that 1 or 2 Mendeln procs stay alive. We're going in. We do the Bone Prison. Okay, he's locked in. Again, don't forget the Bone Prison also has a pool of shadow that's happening. But now he's locked in, and technically he shouldn't be able to hit me. He is obviously able to hit me still. But I can keep him in the Bone Prison locked up. I still do significant damage with my Shadow Blight pools, as you notice. Like there's good triggers, good procs, and everything happening. And he's not able to really destroy my Bone Prison. Plus, my minions don't die. That's a good thing in itself. We gotta look out, though, because any hit from him can, like, smash us. And you notice how we don't really see much, right? So we gotta put ourselves on the side. And due to now the new Paragon board, and I haven't, like, really told you about the new Paragon board yet, but we changed the Paragon board to mostly accomplish crits and fully focus on boosting our Shadow Blight, because there was a 300k Shadow Blight proc, non-crit. But yes, Shadow Blight can actually crit. Shadow Blight can go crazy. And you just noticed, like, this is what we're in with 5 minutes, 8 minutes for a tier 69 Nightmare Dungeon. We haven't died a single time. This is arguably one of the more annoying ones that I personally like, because I like clapping the church. Yeah, I don't know what that says about me personally. But now let's get to the boss. And we all know this is the triple boss, right? The triple stack. Oh no, it's not the turbo boss. We all know this is the Tomb Lord. I lied. Let's see what we can do to him. So we Bone Prison him in, and yes, Bone Prison works against this as well. The problem is the walls back here, because you want to Bone Prison him for your minions to focus him down, but they actually Bone Prison again. Every new Bone Prison triggers Mendeln straight away, so just keep this cooldown up as fast as you can. Let's get it done. 2 and boom, 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 boom. 2.3 million. Welcome to the new way to play the Necromancer, which works extremely well. Now, what did we change about the Paragon board? And again, link in the description below with the whole Paragon board. We're focusing mostly on plus damage, crit, and bonus shadow damage. No shadow damage over time. So obviously we're taking bonus damage, resistance, bonus armor, bonus damage. Then here we're using the exploit. Exploit gives you more damage when attacking vulnerable enemies, multiplicative. And also for every 5 decks nearby, you get more damage against vulnerable targets. Works really good. It's at plus 30%. Awesome. Then we're actually taking the Scent of Death board first. Nicely, it is a 15% damage reduction throughout the board for you, and well, your minions get a part of that. Or if there would be no corpse, you get 15% X damage. That won't ever happen. There's always corpses. But this also gives you 50% damage against healthy enemies. And that's really good with a Mendeln proc, because you put the Bone Prison up, everyone is still above 80%. And if the Mendeln hits, it gets the plus 50% also. And there's critical strike damage, critical strike damage, critical strike damage. Then you have the Scent of Death going, bonus maximum life. You have more critical strike damage, and that's plus 30% with critical strike damage and critical strike damage. We have armored intelligence. We have 50% damage to injured enemies, which also works very nice with Mendeln to just finish them completely off. But also with the glyph socket here, damage to crowd controlled enemies increased tremendously. And also 20% bonus damage against stunned. Stunned happens with the corpse tendrils and multiplicative. On the right side, we do go for the Flesh Eater board, because the Flesh Eater board has 50% damage to injured and critical strike. Then we have damage to elites, and we also have resistance to all elements, together with the Gravekeeper for bonus damage as there are corpses around up to 12%, and also to boost the rare notes. Then we'll move over here. That's actually the second board you pick. You go from the Scent of Death first all the way up to the Cult Leader board. And here we're going to get the Dead Razor glyph, obviously with minion damage and damage reduction. But the minion damage here we just take because it's in. Minion damage, again, does not profit Mendeln. That's why we're also not taking this. Your minions don't do more damage with Mendeln if you put minion damage. It's just reliable on you. Therefore, we're actually not getting the Cult Leader node itself, because your minions do damage. But despite taking every single damage node, you can't push them over like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's useless. Your minions are not main damage, sadly, even if you take every single damage node. I know it sounds a bit weird, but trust in the process. We're going all the way up to choose the Wither board, but we're not taking Wither because, again, we're focusing on our Shadow Blight to do the damage, and that's a proc. That's not shadow damage over time. And that's why we're maxing crit, and in total, shadow damage against affected by shadow damage over time, people. We do more shadow damage. We get the whenever your minions deal shadow damage to an enemy, they do reduce damage to you, plus 80% shadow damage. And then last but not least, we go all the way up here to pick up minion life and maximum minion life. And this node is so important because it works multiplicative. Yes, the 10% maximum minion life, 5%, and the 5% here, the minion armor is plus. That is additive. But the minion life works multiplicative on all your minion life up and just pushes it even higher. So you need this node here to really make your minions never die in the end game. Now I will still get some points to level 100 that will spread, and we might either take another maximum life, or we could also take a big damage reduction node, because this would be another 8% damage reduction. And I could pick up a lot of dexterity on the way, because you notice we actually need another 100 dexterity somehow to get some of my bonus nodes activated here. And I truly want this 8% bonus damage reduction, because that's a flat and that works for you and your minions, obviously. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're loving this new Necromancer as much as I do. There's soon going to be a tier 100 dungeon video coming. Probably going to do 70, 80, 90, 100, just to give you an update on am I able to beat all of them progressively instead of just jumping straight away to 100. I'm very close to 100 to perfect the thing to get my gear to also then attempt Uber Lilith with summons. Can't wait to share this all for you. Also, if you're looking for the secrets of Helltides or 12 tips in general that I really don't want to miss out on, watch that. Thank you.